just begin with a little story. There was once a baby deer who had just been born and brought into the world, and this baby deer came to his mother one day, and the baby deer said, "Mother, tell me, what is all this air that's I hear you talking about, but I can never see it?" And the mother said to the baby deer, "You silly little deer, the air is invisible, but it's all around you. It's on all sides. You go stick your head in a stream, and you'll soon find out what air is." Right? And then on another occasion, there was a little fish in the ocean. And the little fish came up to its mother, and it said, "Mom, you keep talking about this water, but I don't see any water. What is this water?" And the mother said, "Oh, you silly little fish. We're swimming in the water all the time. The water is all around you. Go stick your head up at the top, and you'll soon find out what water is." And then there was the young pilgrim, a disciple, who came to Muhammad one day and said, "Muhammad, what is this Allah that people keep talking about?" In the Christian scholarly movement in recent times, there has been a lot of focus on the fact that in the early days of the Christian church, in the first 200 years following the time of Jesus, peace be upon him, that at that time in the development of the Christian faith, there were very few creeds and dogmas and written down things, unlike within your tradition. There were very few things that were really written down firmly that told people what they had to believe in order to be right with God or with Allah. That all came several hundred years later, when the Constantine, the emperor at that time, in a sense co-opted the Christian religion with the state and decided that everyone had to believe exactly the same thing. And then they started saying, well, what is it we have to believe? And they started writing down creeds and dogmas and doctrines, and they said, if you don't believe this, you cannot go to heaven. But we know now that that all came much, much later. And what Christian scholars now believe about Jesus, peace be upon him, is that Jesus didn't teach so much creeds and dogmas and precise things. What Jesus taught and what Jesus, peace be upon him, demonstrated in his life is that we all live in this great mysterious ocean of spirit. If I ask you, where is God? What would you say? Everywhere. God is right here. And when we learn to see God's presence right here, and we learn to see God within one another, then that lovely speaker who you had, the youth speaker before, that is what surfaces love in our lives. When we learn to see one another as expressions of God, when we learn to see that each of us is an expression of spirit, then when we look at each other and we see the face of God in each other, be you Muslim, be you Hindu, be you Buddhist, be you Christian, then a spirit of compassion and tolerance and love emerges within us. Jesus was first and foremost a person who was in touch with spirit. And I would suggest to you that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was first and foremost a person who was in touch with spirit. And Muhammad's writings emerged out of his in-touchness with spirit. Right? Those writings and those teachings didn't just come from him. They came through, as your faith says, they came through a connection with the presence of spirit. And they led your teachings to inspire you to see the presence of spirit in one another and to be loving and kind and just with one another as well. So I was at a large conference with the United Church of Canada this weekend. And as some of you know, I am resigning as the minister of Bedford United Church, but we'll see how the Spirit leads, because I am presently embarking on a larger role within the United Church of Canada. And at this large conference this weekend, I spoke to people, many people, about this lovely relationship that we have here between Al-Rasoul and Bedford United. And many of those people have gone online to watch that very special video that we put together, our two communities together, about this lovely march, you remember, down the highway last year. And people all across Canada within the Christian community are seeing that, and they're starting to say, my goodness. They're starting to think those people see the face of God in each other. And they're starting to think maybe we can see the face of God in our Muslim sisters and brothers as well. We are doing something very good here. And I want to honor you, and I want to honor your wonderful leaders. And Syed Muhammad Kaswini, it's just wonderful to have you here, because this effort isn't just going on here in Halifax, it's also going on in Detroit and in all sorts of parts of the world. Let's start to recognize that we all swim in a great ocean of spirit, that every single one of us has that spirit inside of us, that every single one of us is called to bring love into the world, to make this world a kind and good place. And when we do that together, my friends, then we will bring about on this earth what Jesus, peace be upon him, and what Muhammad, peace be upon him, wanted us to achieve, to bring a little piece of heaven, to really create the world that God intends for all of us to live in. It's an honor to be here with you. I really wish you the best for Ramadan. Even though your days may be long and difficult, you can just remember when you get thirsty or hungry in the day, I'm breathing in spirit. I'm breathing in the presence of God. And that will help you to get to the end of the day when you can feast on the wonderful food that Christians have no idea how good you really have it. Assalamu alaikum. My friends, an honor to be with you.